right, greetings and welcome to the Hanson Select Board meeting of May 13th, 2025. This meeting is being recorded by Whitman Hanson Community Access Television. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Hill, you know the drill.
Yes, for our announcements, we are looking for citizens at large to become members of the following committees: the Bylaw Committee, Cable and Internet Committee, Camp Kiwanee Commission, Capital Improvement Committee, Economic Development Committee, Energy Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day and Patriotic Observance Committee, and the Recreation Committee. Volunteer applications may be found at the town website, www.hanson-mass.gov, or by calling the Select Board's office at 781-293-2131. And then the upcoming Select Board meetings are May 20th, 2025, and June 10th, 2025.
Amazing, well done. And you didn't have any lengthy
No, that
events.
was nice.
Yes, it
Thank
was
you.
very succinct. It was great. Okay, we have got a jam-packed agenda as per usual, but we're going to whip right through it. So our first item of business is to appoint Kimberly Cunningham to the Administrative Assistant to the Assessor. Ms. Green.
Yes, so as you're all aware, Ann Merlin, after 25 years, retired yesterday. It is a union position, so we did post in-house as required by the contract, and we did have an in-house candidate, Kim Cunningham, who is currently the part-time administrative assistant to the planning board and the town planner. She was interviewed by the assessor and the chair of the Board of Assessors, and I would just like to read the email that was sent to me regarding her. Good day, Lisa. I would like to inform you that during the regular scheduled Board of Assessor meeting, April 30, 2025, the board reviewed Kim Cunningham's resume and letter of interest in the position of Administrative Assistant for the Assessors Department. Kim was interviewed for the position by the chair, Trish O'Kane, and myself, and after interviewing, the board gladly gave the recommendation to support the hiring of Kim Cunningham as the Administrative Assistant for the Assessor Department. So she goes on to say that there'll be a bit of training involved, but that's expected. But they are looking forward to welcoming Kim and working with Kim as a terrific member of the department.
Well, I'm excited for Kim. I don't know whether you guys have had an opportunity to work with her, but I have, because she works with Tony on the Economic Development Committee that I chair, and Kim was the laboring oar behind the Hanson Business Summit. She did a lovely job pulling that together. And she's very positive. She really digs in. She loves to learn new things. And I'm excited that she wants to stay with us and expand her role. I think the assessors are going to be truly fortunate to have her. What is our start date for the lovely and talented Miss Cunningham?
It will be June 2nd, and that is because the town planner does have a vacation planned and we cannot leave the department empty. So it will be June 2nd.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to appoint Kimberly Cunningham as the Administrative Assistant to the Assessor.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right?
Okay, amazing. And that brings us to Executive Assistant Finalist interviews. And it says plural, but we're really, we only have one person, and I'll start off by saying that as we had discussed as a board, Ann, Lisa, and I met with a handful of candidates, all of whom were quite lovely and very talented in a variety of backgrounds. And it was originally our intention that we were going to bring two finalists before the board. But after we finished interviewing the person that we're presenting this evening, all three of us looked at each other and said, we really should just present this one individual because she stood out, far above the other candidates. So with that, Ms. Green, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else or...
I just really want to mirror Select Board Chair Kemet's words that I'm very impressed She has wonderful experience as an executive assistant in another municipality, so she is familiar with agendas, minutes. She knows how to do licensing, which we have coming up, town meeting, basically everything we need an executive assistant to do. She is well-equipped with all the tools and experience. And I really look forward to welcoming her as part of our team in the office.
Okay, so Colleen, do you mind joining us at the Inquisition table? We've got such a friendly environment here. Where were you on the night of the 5th? Okay. So, Colleen, thanks for joining us. And what would you like to tell us about yourself?
I would just like to, similar to when we interviewed, just assure the other members who didn't get a chance to hear, I do have a long history. I did start with municipal government doing minutes for different committees, planning, building committees, finance committees, so I got a lot of experience there. And then I was looking forward to an executive assistant role, so I've done that and I would like to continue to do that. I do have a lot of experience in doing licensing. I am already a notary. And I'm familiar, while it's a different town, things are a lot alike, which is good, so I can field phone calls immediately and know where they need to go. Yeah.
One of the things we asked was how familiar are you with Civic Plus, with social media? She's familiar with all of those things.
Yeah, I already took a look at your website too, so I already have some plans, some ideas.
That's not necessarily our best foot forward. Our website needs a little TLC.
It's a little,
It
Yeah,
does,
yeah,
yes. Yeah.
Did anybody on the board have any questions?
Nope. I don't have any questions. I think we answered them the other day, but
Yep.
you guys?
There's always the question about longevity, but I'm looking at the.
She is a long
She is,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, she stays a
I
job.
really like, we like to see that.
Yes.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said you pretty much plan on being here for the duration.
I do,
Yeah.
yes, that would be my intention, yeah.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I just love it, so, it's like home.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to say, Ms. Green?
we do have, should the board appoint her, we have an estimated start date of June 3rd.
Okay. And we will do our customary background check.
Yes.
So any offer would be contingent upon that.
Background check,
And anything else? All right.
That's all.
Then I will
recommend.
entertain a motion to appoint, how do you pronounce your last name?
Leave.
Lieb, okay. To appoint Colleen Lieb as our executive assistant effective June 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Amazing. Okay, welcome on board. Thank you.
No, you can, okay.
I feel like Doreen and Lisa just like, just
I
relax.
think there was a sigh.
Yes, there was a sigh from that end of the room. Okay, next up is recognized Police Chief Mick's notice of retirement. In your packet is a note from our beloved Police Chief, Chief Mick, that he will be retiring on June 30th. And he has been with us for 12 years, and anybody that's had the good fortune to work with him knows that he is a prince amongst men. He is very balanced, very good judgment, which is kind of key in that role, and has really worked on developing folks in, amongst the ranks, and I personally am going to miss you. I don't want to get all, emotional about it. But I've counted on the chief on a plethora of things, like just a variety of things that one could never even imagine you'd have to talk to somebody about. And he's always been there and given very good sage advice. For the town and for the town employees. So we're lucky to have him. And you know that if we could kidnap you and keep you longer, we would, but it's not the right thing to do. So we're not going to do that. Did you have anything you wanted to, I know you're a mushy kind of guy and you want to kind of wax nostalgic on us, but.
I don't know how much I love it. I get to sit up here for the next one anyways, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't, if you'd asked me 12 years ago that I'd be here and still be here, I probably would have said I highly doubt it. The town's been great to me. I appreciate it. I'm gonna be retiring just short of 30 years. I didn't think at times I'd ever make it, but the finish line's here, and it's a time in my life that it's time to say, I need to do something else. So I greatly appreciate the opportunity the town has given me. I've met some wonderful people, some incredible officers, one of which I'm hoping you're gonna give, to make my replacement in a few moments. And you have a number after that, that I think from years to come, you'll be able to take care of from within the leadership of that department. And for that, I'm very grateful. They've made my life easier and the job easier. And hopefully I left the place a little better than I found it.
Oh, I believe you did.
God knows maintenance-wise I have. I'm not gonna be a facilities manager, but yes. But thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So with that, I will entertain a motion to accept Chief Mix's resignation effective June 30th.
So moved with regret.
Second with regrets.
Did you want to express your regrets?
I do want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, for whatever it's worth, you're just a good person. We're going to miss you. You really are all around. It's really hard to take a vote on this one.
It is.
Not only that, just above being a great chief and all the other things that we just said, the guy could be a stand-up comedian. And you don't believe this, but when you read his Facebook posts, now we can whip back the Who's the Wizard of Oz behind the counter police. And the Hanson police posts, which are
Yes, they're-
hysterical, are Chief Mix. We can say that now, your secret's safe, so.
See that I do in the next 30 days. Don't forget, I get all the passwords to the side.
Oh, boy, okay.
It's true, actually.
Maybe I should have waited
back
to
what I
say
said.
that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, with that, next up is discuss and vote to appoint Michael Casey as Chief of Police. Did you want to join us?
Horn works.
Most likely that is my kid.
Your
It's guaranteed it's my kid. The phone was ringing. Yeah.
Well, that got your attention.
Now. Okay.
Okay, so, after discussions with Chief Mix and discussions amongst ourselves about succession planning, and Rand and I had an opportunity to speak to Casey about this. We really feel, I think we're generally in agreement that we would like to appoint Michael Casey as the Chief of Police. Did anybody want to say anything about that?
No.
Lisa, did you want to say anything?
No, I couldn't support the board's decision more.
Okay. I didn't know where you were going with that one. That was a cliffhanger.
I just wanted to say that I think it's admirable that you've pulled somebody up and made it happen this way. I think it's a good thing rather than having to bring a stranger, so to speak, in. It's good idea.
So Andy, that means you
I,
threw it on me that I have to say something.
Yeah.
yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But Ed's being a little jokester up here, asking if we're going to do a background check before we, okay, yeah.
It's already ways ago.
This is a rough crowd.
We shouldn't give you a chance to speak. You're supposed to wait your turn. First thing you need to learn and then meeting.
Oh, boy.
So, Madam Chair, through you, I will say a few things, because he's already told me a number of things I'm not allowed to say.
Okay.
And I'm sure he's a bit nervous right now, not so much about how your vote's gonna be, but what's gonna come out of my mouth. With that being said, no, honestly, he's made my job easier. The officers respect him. He has done a great job over the past, what has it been, 8 years now, you've been upstairs with me? He became lieutenant, and it just gradually giving more and more and more responsibilities. I am 100% confident that if I walked out tomorrow, hand him the key, everything's gonna be fine. The citizens aren't gonna see any lack of services or major issues or anything like that. They won't know, they're not gonna know I'm gone.
Well, the Facebook posts, won't be as funny, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, I get signed, but it's signed, that's.
Okay, all right.
Could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Mike's, he's been here 30 years. I've depended upon him for a number of things. One of the most important things has been not only his institutional knowledge of the department, but his knowledge of the town, his connections and his relationships with people and businesses in the town and the surrounding area. It always amazes me. I'll say, oh, we need something. He's like, oh, I got a guy for that. It's like, okay, well, I just call Charlie, but I don't have to half the time. He's got somebody that can, replace a sidewalk or fix the heating or do whatever. And the biggest pain that I've had in that building has actually been the HVAC system, as we all know, because there's usually an annual report on how much money I spent on that. He brought in a company and he's like, I know somebody that can fix this, and we've done much better. They've given us realistic prices and expectations on the system and how to keep it going. So I really do have confidence in him that not only can he take care of the stuff that a police chief really shouldn't be doing, like running a building, but he can definitely take care of the law enforcement side and the human resources side. And like I said before, the officers respect him. A lot of times I hear other chiefs, they'll kind of look at me and they'll kind of laugh, like they don't understand our relationship, he and I, number one. But they don't understand a lot of times the relationship the officers have with us. So you don't see that in a lot of departments. We've got great people, and that's testament to the leadership that I have. That's Mike and the sergeants and the officers' character themselves. He's also been in charge of recruitment for the past probably 4 years anyways. 8, 9, I think the first couple. I held your hand somewhere. So
Oh, boy.
he's
like-
been responsible for the recruitment, and we're doing everything we can on the retention side because law enforcement's becoming more and more competitive to keep these people, get good officers, keep them. Been very good with that too. Turned over the training records, everything to him for that. He's good to go. He's ready. And once he's ready, it's time for me to come. So
Okay.
I'd say fly baby bird, but it's nothing baby about you.
Oh, my word. It's like the frickin' frat comedy hour here.
Well, I can say in serious to him. First, congratulate the chief on his retirement. I think, as he said, he walked in the door 12 years ago. We had a lot of things going on in this department, but we still maintained one thing. We had really good officers. So when he came in on the administrative level, things changed, and he's leaving the place better. With equipment, with culture, with leadership. I will echo the sentiments. My focus, fortunate for your vote, I will start with him. I'm going to continue the succession plan. We have an amazing and talented men and women in our department. It's key to take care of your people, because then they'll take care of us, which is the community. And obviously, so the chief had instilled that in us, and I want to continue that and bring it to another level. So I want to thank the chief for everything he's done for me. My 8 years upstairs with him has been a fantastic relationship. I mean, we will put on this little show, but when we have to really strap it down and do business, we take care of it, and we do it right. And I will say there are other communities that are in awe of our relationship and how we conduct ourselves and sometimes, but our guys, our women, our men and women officers, they see what we do professionally, and we take care of it. So, thank you, Chief. I congratulate you on your retirement. I appreciate you giving me the support and the training to get me to the next level. And as a 30-year veteran, almost, I've always wanted to go up in the ranks and someday be a chief. When I was interviewing as an auxiliary, Rusty King's first thing was, where do you see yourself? And I said, someday being a chief. So I started from the bottom, making my all the way out to the top. I love Hanson. I love the community. I'm from from here all my life, but I more importantly, I love who I work with. I love what I do. And I want to just be the officer and the administrative leader that takes care of their people. So, thank you again. And Chief, congratulations.
Did anybody have any questions?
No questions.
Should we talk to him about longevity? I'm okay.
Yeah, I know. How do we know you're going to stick with us? No. You've only been with us for 30 years.
He doesn't have the age and the time.
No, truly, the continuing succession planning is critical. And then, you know, if you are appointed, which it seems as though you will be, we want you to build on the successes of your predecessor, but make it your own. And we look forward to that. So with that, I will entertain a motion to appoint Michael Casey, I'm trying to figure, I guess effective July 1st, 2025, as the chief of police.
So moved.
Second.
Okay?
This is the easiest vote ever.
Yes.
All in favor? Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We look forward to it. Congratulations to both of you.
And I look forward to working with you all.
July 1st is a Tuesday.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Just what?
The last, I guess, I thought that was, last one was gonna be done with the week.
Oh, no, that was just Lisa, yeah. All right, anything else after this is gonna be anticlimactic, I'm just warning everybody. Okay, we've got, and I'm sorry to do that, but I was looking at the agenda and I'm like, who should we try to, help get out of here quickly? So we've got, let's do accept the anonymous gift of $50 to the Hanson Senior Center.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
And thank you for that.
Yep, thank you very much, to whom it may concern. And then, disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest, that is Milwaukee. Ms. Green.
So a situation was brought to my attention, that our veteran service officer, was elected to an E-board at the American Legion, here in Hanson. So, I suggested that he call the Ethics Department, Massachusetts Ethics Commission, and talk to the Attorney of the Day, and get advice from the Attorney of the Day. They in turn, recommended that he fill out a disclosure.
Yep.
Which each of the board members have, and he followed what they, recommended.
Okay, well, I am tickled pink that this process happened the way it did. Preemptively, not after the fact, we're not finding out about a conflict till 3 years after people have been, and in my estimation, I do appreciate him doing this, and I think you guys will remember when we had, town council here, she said, when in doubt, file the disclosure. And so I think this just, to me, symbolizes that he's been thoughtful about how people might perceive his role as our veterans agent and then a member of, of the American Legion. So, are we to just take a,
Just voting to recognize the disclosure.
okay, all right, I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Then that brings us to appointment of Paul Serra to the Economic Development Committee. Mr. Serra, did you want to join us at our friendly little table here? Okay. Paul has applied to be a member of the Economic Development Committee. He is a member of the Hanson Business Network, and he and his wife Melissa, have been very active in that regard. So we got talking, and I said, we still have openings on the Economic Development Committee, because I'm constantly recruiting people.
She's dangerous.
To the point where nobody wants to talk to me anymore, because I'm gonna be like, did you know we have openings? So Paul, what did you want to tell us about yourself?
Just that I live in Elmore, 491 East Washington Street. in Hanson, and I've been, involved with the business group, and really, I'm just, excited to be out there. So,
And I think you've got some ideas about using some of our underutilized properties and, yeah. So I think, that's something we really are focusing on. So it'd be great to have another laboring oar there to kind of work on that. So, anything else you want to tell us about? Okay. Did anybody have any questions?
Just typical, no, financial disclosures that you have to make, nothing like that. I'm sure you're already vetted, so.
No, I'm retired anyway. I'm also on the CPC.
Yeah, he's on community preservation as the
Just
at-large
asked of
member.
everybody.
No, but we've had, some situations. If you are aware of any conflicts, make sure that you file, let us know about them or whatever. We're hoping there aren't any. And just stay on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
Okay, and like I said, I know Paul I know usually we have to interview, but I know him from the Hanson Business Network. I will entertain a motion to appoint Paul Sarah to the Economic Development Committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. Thank you for
Welcome.
stepping up.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate it.
Huge.
Nice and easy.
What other committees can we get them?
I think you might be close to not having to read that committee on there anymore.
Capital
Really?
improvement. You want to jump on the capital improvement?
Come on now.
Any
We don't
takers?
want to be vampires.
Seats.
We got a live one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, definitely.
All right. Let's see. Okay, yeah, nip ban enforcement discussion. So, Ms. Green, as you will recall, nip ban enforcement discussion, I asked to have this on the agenda. As you know, the Groundhog Day existence that we have with the nip bans constantly being brought back, repealed, brought back, repealed. The saga continued. Town meeting decided to keep the nip ban in place. Now, at town meeting, and just prior, I had been told by a citizen that we had folks that were not complying with the nip ban. And that's not really fair, because if we've got a regulation and we've got some businesses who are complying, then they're disadvantaged by following the regulations, and the folks who decide not to comply are getting a leg up because they're selling something nobody else is selling. And regardless of whether you support the nip ban or not, it is in effect because town meeting, as a result of a citizen's petition, voted to have the nip ban. So it is our job as select board members to enforce bylaws and regulations. And in discussing this with Ms. Green, she originally said, because that the bylaw that went into effect was as a result of a citizen's petition, it wasn't as pro forma filled out in terms of who would have been the enforcement agency. If we had submitted it, we would have had legal counsel look at it. They would have said, you didn't put this in, you didn't put that. But citizens petitions, you must submit them the way that they are written unless they agree that they're going to change them. So what we've got is a bylaw essentially that doesn't have any enforcement teeth, seemingly. But I got thinking about it, and I said to Lisa, we are the ones who issued liquor licenses. And we always ask whether people are complying with the regulations and whether there's any violations. So I just bringing this up to have a conversation with you guys. I'm certainly not saying that we're going to revoke liquor licenses now. What my thought is that we should have Ms. Green reach out to everybody that has a liquor license that would be selling nips, inform them that, town meeting once again it voted to keep the nip ban, and that when license renewals come up, one of the questions we will be looking at will be whether folks are complying with the nip ban, and to the extent that they aren't, we are not going to be inclined to renew their license. And I think it's I think we're giving people notice. I think we're being fair. I think we're, just sort of like having that conversation. So, what do people think?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, no matter if you enjoy, you're for the nip ban or against the nip ban, it's not, that's not the question. It's the townspeople voted a
Yeah.
certain way and we need to enforce it. I couldn't agree more.
And do we have Matt on here for this discussion?
Matt,
Okay, I didn't know.
Matt, can you hear us?
Joe, did you have something?
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions that I have, that's helpful, now that Matt's here, that's great. So, I guess
I don't think he can hear us.
Matt?
I don't think he can.
No, was.
Oh, it's 'cause our volume's off.
I believe it's Ed talking, but he's a lot more muted than he was formerly.
Apparently I saw.
Can you hear us now?
No, Ed was talking.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, that seems to have resolved it.
So for me, this is one of the reasons why I never vote on citizens petitions, because I've historically never done it, because they're never fully flushed out. So you don't know what you're voting on.
Yeah.
You're voting on like the concept of something, but because there's no resources to back up anything in a citizens petition other than the energy and resources that get put into it up front, you don't really know what you're voting for.
No.
So you could vote for a nip ban, let's say, but it could have something in there that has some type of like, unintended consequence
Yes.
down the road, and you have no idea until after the fact.
Yep.
So I don't think it's really, I don't think it's a question of whether or not you're for the nip ban or against the nip ban at all, really. It's about whether you're for that particular citizens petition or not. And it's going to be this way for a lot of different citizens petitions. That's why, I think we need to kind of, if something goes through, I do think we should make it a standard practice that if something goes through, then we should do the follow-up at the next town meeting to clean it up, because it could have unintended consequences like this. Because my question then becomes, and I agree with you to give people notice and all that stuff, but if you have actors acting in bad faith, then the people that get punished are the ones that are adhering to the law, which therefore has two unintended consequences. One, we're punishing people for following what the townspeople wanted because they're part of a community and they respect a decision. But it impacts their bottom line or whatever. It doesn't matter. Again, I'm taking the nip ban out of it, but I'm talking about this as an example. The flip side is that it encourages people to not follow the law because there is no teeth to not following it. So it actually encourages also bad behavior simultaneously. So this, we don't walk away with anything tangible effectively until October. So I guess that's my scenic route to getting to, I agree in concept that the way that we're going, that the way that you just outlined it is fair and fine. But I would want to find something more immediate that we can do, because I don't think it's respecting the will of the town that we don't do something that was now voted twice.
We could revoke. We could, so.
I don't want to go that serious.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and we could, and my mind did go there in full disclosure, but I don't think we need to go so drastic. I think the idea would be maybe like you have to become compliant within 30 days or we will revoke. I think there's a balance there. But I do think that we should clean this up. And I don't know whether you have to wait until October or if there's a workaround in the regulations that we don't have to wait until next town meeting to get a vote on this. Or we do some type of, for this particular person or business, you don't give them 6 months. Or don't wait for the next renewal year. It's just like you have this long, or we're going to revoke it.
Yeah, I think those are fair points. Matt, what are your thoughts on how we could enforce this? Because now we know we have somebody who's not complying, and it's basically, given, it's a complete disregard for the will of the citizens and for, that voted for the nip ban, and it was complete disregard. They're aware. It's not like they're not aware. Nobody said, oh, we didn't know, they're clutching their pearls, we had no idea. No, that was not the case.
So I think that the way it's structured, I think the cleanest, best way to proceed would be to move down 2 tracks. So when you issue a liquor license under Chapter 138, whether it's a restaurant license or a retail license, you're acting under power that the state legislature gave to the select board, sitting as the local licensing authority. So when you act under that, you want to act under the power that you've got under Chapter 138. Now, you can do two things under Chapter 138. You can put a reasonable condition on the issuance or reissuance of a license, and you can also issue regulations that apply to licenses issued in the town. So I think you can do both things. The first thing you can do is you can send these folks a notice that based on their failure to voluntarily comply with the NIP ban that was passed and repassed essentially at town meeting, that you're going to contemplate bringing them in for a hearing to determine whether their licenses need to be modified to contain an express condition that they're not allowed to sell NIPs. Now, the licenses that were issued going into effect at the beginning of this year didn't have that, presumably because the NIP ban didn't take effect until January 1st, 2025. So I think that's the first avenue that you have. The second you have is that you can also issue a notice to hold a public hearing on some regulations that you're going to adopt. And you can promulgate local regulations as the licensing authority that also do that. And the licenses that you did issue are expressly conditioned on both compliance with everything in Chapter 138 and upon any regulations that you as the local licensing authority may set up from time to time.
Okay. I mean, so what do people think? I'd like to do both.
I think we should do both.
Okay.
I think we should
All right.
both.
What do you think?
I do.
Okay. All right. Ms. Green, what are your thoughts on next steps there, since it kind of all falls to you to execute on this?
I'll work with town council, and we'll get the regulations together, and I'll follow, if we need to do a hearing, I will make sure that we comply with all of the regulations as far as hearings.
All right, so Matt, for purposes of a vote, should we be voting? I mean, I don't think we need to vote that we're going to promulgate, some rules. Until we've got the rules, we adopt them.
Yeah.
But as far as the compliance piece, is it your counsel that we should vote tonight to empower Ms. Green to issue a notice that if there isn't compliance within 30 days, that we're going to have a hearing?
I think you can do that. I think you could say that, first you're going to want to authorize her to send a communication to each of the affected license holders indicating that you're aware that they haven't been in compliance with the NIP ban sale, the ban on NIP sales is voted by the town, that if they don't come into immediate compliance, you're going to issue a notice for a hearing on whether their license should be modified, suspended, or revoked based on that conduct. And separately, we can also go down the path of preparing the regulations and then issuing a notice that you're going to adopt regulations under your power as the local licensing authority. That notice will include a copy of the proposed regulations, and everybody will have an opportunity to be heard.
Okay, and thank you for that. And just one thought on that. Since we do have this being somewhat of a Groundhog Day with it continuously coming up, and there is a potential that somebody could submit a citizen's petition to yet again revoke the NIP ban, would the regulations that we promulgate sort of indicate, like, to the extent this is still the case, that this that the bylaw is in effect, or what, because
You have the power under Chapter 138 to promulgate regulations, and that's separate and distinct from whether the town has adopted a bylaw. If you look at the Attorney General's ruling on some of these bylaws when they undertook their review, they note that it's a little bit legally unclear whether and how the bylaws that many towns have been passing can have specific effect, but they note that whether there's a bylaw or not, as the licensing authority, you have the explicit statutory authority to pass regulations.
all right, so I will entertain, that's so interesting.
Can I ask you just
Yeah.
a nerdy question, just because I'm curious about that? So even if there wasn't a NIP ban that was passed at town bylaw, does that mean then that we could have just made a ban if we wanted to? You just made it part of the regulations that you can't sell NIPs if you want a liquor license in Hanson?
I think that if you as the local licensing authority voted that
in your judgment, that should be in effect whether or not the town had passed a bylaw, you have the authority to do so.
We wanted to,
That's so we
yeah.
could put this to bed
Yeah.
and not ever have to talk about it.
Well, I'm not saying we should. I didn't
know,
realize
I
we had
know.
that much
Yeah.
power to do
Okay,
that.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will,
I can tell you that I think you have the authority to do so. The question of whether you ought to is going to be a political question. That's really up to your own discretion and judgment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just curious.
all right.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to have Ms. Green work on a letter of noncompliance with the timeline of 30 days, after which we will hold a hearing.
So moved.
second.
Okay? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay. Thanks, Matt, that was great.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Any other
Okay.
questions?
No, we just knocked off 2 items off the agenda.
Always helpful.
Yeah, that was great, that was great.
That was the license one too?
That was the license,
Okay.
yeah, I kind of tied it
So,
into that.
yeah, I didn't
Be in
realize
Thank you.
that the,
Everybody have a good evening.
Good night. You too, thanks, Matt.
I just didn't realize that the select board had that much power. That's,
We've never really
litigate,
talked
yeah.
about the liquor
no, I don't want to. That's the
licenses.
point. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I don't know that we want, but
Yeah.
it's interesting to know that.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah, that was a news flash for me too. Okay, proclaim the month of May, 2025 as ALS Awareness Month. I got a letter from a constituent, who, I believe she told me her father had passed. And I have, personal, my grandfather passed away from Lou Gehrig's and ALS. It's an awful, awful disease. So she was hoping that we would proclaim the month of May 2025 as ALS Awareness Month. Mr. Heel,
I just have one question before
Yeah, yeah.
It is like other places, and we're not like declaring it as Hanson.
no, it's not exclusively Hanson. This is like nationwide. I was hoping I could prevail upon you to read the proclamation.
I can. Proclaim the month of May 2025 as ALS Awareness Month. Title, why do you ask?
Amyotrophic.
Amyotrophic
Yeah.
Lateral Sclerosis Awareness Month, ALS. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive, fatal neurodegenerative disease in which a person's brain loses connection with their muscles, slowly reducing a person's ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. Thousands of new amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, cases are reported every year, and estimates show that every 90 minutes, someone is diagnosed with ALS and someone passes away from ALS. And whereas on average, patients diagnosed with ALS survive only 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis, and whereas the exact causes of ALS are unknown and there is no known cure for ALS, and whereas people who have had served in the military are more likely to develop ALS and die from the disease than those with no history of military service, and whereas securing access to new therapies, durable medical equipment, and communication technologies is of vital importance to people living with ALS, and whereas clinical trials play a pivotal role in evaluating new treatments, enhancing quality of life, and fostering assistive technologies for those living with ALS, and whereas the ALS Association is the largest philanthropic funder of ALS research globally and has committed more than $154 million to support more than 550 projects across the United States and 18 other countries. And whereas the ALS Association is committed to accelerating the pace of discovery, fueled by the hope that one day ALS will be a livable disease for everyone, everywhere, until a cure can be found. And whereas Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis Awareness Month provides an opportunity to increase public awareness of the dire circumstances of people living with ALS, acknowledge the terrible impact this disease has on those individuals and their families, and support research to eradicate this disease.
Now, I don't, I really feel bad that I just had you read that whole thing, because at the very end it says, now therefore I, Select Board Chairman Fitzgerald, do proclaim the month of May as the ALS Awareness Month. But thank you for being such a good and supportive member here. So anyway, okay, so I will entertain a motion to proclaim the month of May as ALS Awareness Month.
So moved.
So, second.
All in favor? All right, amazing. You send that down to Doreen.
Certainly.
And then we have got the letter to the Eagle Scout, request for his court of honor. Mr. Winters, the Eagle Scout advisor of Troop 34, has done it yet again, and he is,
Pushed another one.
he's
across the
dragged
finish
another
line.
one kicking and screaming across the Eagle Scout line, which is an amazing, I don't know, I actually don't know if Kobe was kicking and screaming, but my son was. We've just got a brief letter that just, congratulates him and that, for our signature. So I will entertain a motion to sign the letter to Kobe John Draves for his Eagle Scout Award.
So moved.
Second.
And I will just pass that around. Okay. All right.
Get a vote.
Oh, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest, Joe. All right, and Ms. Green, recognize act of kindness letter to Officer William
I
Frazier.
have to say something about that. Why didn't we do this while they were here?
I don't know.
I just,
Yeah,
would have been nice to do it while they were here.
yeah. It wasn't, it was out of order,
I know.
yeah.
Okay, let me see, do I have a copy of that letter?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm passing that down.
Here it is, okay. So I received an email through the town email, and this email, it's really, we do not get emails like this very often. I mean, it's rare, but I thought it was really important that the board see the incredible work of our first responders, our police officers. And I would like to read this. It's addressed to Chief Mix, and I'm writing to express my heartfelt gratitude for the exceptional kindness and professionalism displayed by Officer William Frazier and another officer from your department on May 6, 2025. My elderly mother, who recently endured the profound losses of her husband and mother, visited your station to obtain a crash report. Officer Frazier assisted her with remarkable compassion, patiently addressing all her questions and providing support during a difficult time. His demeanor left a lasting impression on her, making a challenging task far more manageable. Additionally, as my mother left the station, a sudden downpour began. A younger officer, whose name we regretfully do not know, noticed her situation and, without prompting, approached with an umbrella to escort her safely to her car. This unsolicited act of kindness deeply touched her and exemplified the caring spirit of your team. Officers like these are true assets to the Hanson Police Department and outstanding ambassadors for the town of Hanson. Their actions reflect the highest standards of service and community care, and we are grateful for their presence in your department. Please extend our sincere thanks to Officer Frazier and the unidentified officer for the extraordinary efforts. We are fortunate to have such dedicated individuals serving our community. With appreciation, Hans Carlson, 200 Narragansett Ave, Lanesboro, Mass.
Well, that's wonderful. Does the board join me in perhaps having a commendation for Officer
yeah.
Frazier?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
Right.
surprised that he was called out with such kind words. He is
Yeah.
one of the best, absolutely one of the best.
So, Ms. Green, if you don't mind putting that together for us?
Absolutely.
Okay,
we'll
that'd
put
be
that
great.
together.
It seems like we have the unknown soldier type thing, because they're all the best.
They are all the best.
That could have been anybody.
Yep.
And it almost is better to be unnamed, because they're all so good.
Yeah, you're right. No matter who was there, they probably would have
Yeah.
gotten to, but
Right,
Officer
anybody
Frazier
would've done
is,
that. Yep.
is amazing. Okay, great. Town meeting recap, next steps, Ms. Green.
Okay, well, I am really very happy to say that we did get through town meeting in one evening. Some people thought it was going to be two, but we got through it in one evening. I've heard very positive feedback that people were very glad that we had it at the high school to be able to accommodate everybody in the same room. So people really appreciated that. We had some amendments to some of the articles with, as far as use of free cash. Eric Kinshirf, our town accountant, has come to join us to give you the exact figures of what we had prior, what was spent, what we have in our accounts as a result of town meeting. So, Eric, if you'd like to come up.
And you can blame Ann and me, basically, for those amendments. But I did want to mention a couple things that I thought it went very well. And I'm not talking about the votes that were taken or anything of that sort. But one of the things that I would like to see what you guys think about this is going forward, what I really liked about this year was the amount of information that we were sharing with people. We had the forums, Lisa presented at town meeting, and I think those are best practices that we should have going forward for every annual town meeting, not October and May, but at least the big money one, which is our annual town meeting. Because I think it really helped have people more educated when they got to town meeting, because we had so much information out there between the budget website, the public forums, and then again, the brief presentation that Lisa did at the beginning, I think may have answered a lot of the questions people might have had. What do people think about that being a best practice going forward?
I agree that and the more
I
information we
think
get out, the better.
even if we're not hitting an override, just making sure that
Yes.
everybody's aware of what things cost, of
Yes.
what we're doing, what the budget's,
Yep.
why we do what we do.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yep, okay, all right, good. So I think we've talked about it, but I just wanted to make sure that the rest of the board was in agreement. So, Mr. Kinshirf, you were the star of the show. You had a lot of answers for us at town meeting, and we appreciate your very hard work to get us to where we are.
All right, well, thank you. So I want to give you like the results of the town meeting and the balances, but there's two scenarios. So one is if the override passes, we'll have $1,969,000 in free cash and 1.7 million in the stabilization fund. If it doesn't pass, we'll have 907,000 in free cash, and the stabilization fund will still be the same. Okay, so basically, we'll need to use $1 million in free cash to fund the budget. So I'll just take it a step further. So now, if it doesn't pass, and the schools don't reduce our assessment, that money has to come from somewhere. So let's just say, worst case scenario, from the town's perspective,
Yes.
I'm not talking about the schools, worst case scenario that says, we're not gonna move our budget, so we're gonna vote a budget of 940,000. So the way I see it, it's up to you, but the way I see it, we would need to, I don't think you'd have to hold a special town meeting unless you wanted to force an annual, I'd say you just, at the special town meeting in October, you'd address the funding then at that point, and you would take it from free cash, whatever funds we can scrape up, which would leave our balance zero, but that's kind of how I would see it.
All right, so just to be clear, just because people, what the mechanics are. So if the override does not pass, then we have not, then we send it back to the school committee and we say, could you please reconsider? They reconsider. They can either keep it the same or they can reduce. They cannot increase at that point. And if they stay the course, which is their prerogative, if they stay the course, then you're saying, unlike last year where we had to meet,
Right.
this year, because we passed the budget both with and without the override, we don't need to do that, but it is going to put us in a very precarious position where in October, we'll have to essentially
Right.
eviscerate our free
We
cash.
wouldn't even have enough free cash to actually cover the 940.
Okay.
So it's like we have 907,000, so we'd have to figure out, when we get closer, we'll have better numbers and a better idea
Okay.
of what's going on.
So that will leave us with no free cash.
Correct.
To fund the school budget. We'll still be required to make cuts.
I think the cut, yeah, absolutely, the cuts that town meeting
Okay.
voted would be the cuts that we have.
Remind me, what is the number that we need to try to have between stabilization and free cash?
Oh.
So that our bond rating doesn't suffer?
It's usually 5%, so the combination of both should be like in the range of like 2 million, like the combination of the both, like
Okay.
unappropriated free cash and stabilization fund.
Okay,
So that would be best, it should be between 5 and 15%. 5 is like the low water mark. So if we have to use the free cash to fund the school budget, we're gonna be below the 5%, because it comes out to like 2 million bucks. So-
yep, okay.
So that's kind of like the scenario that we're in. So I do want to say, like, on a positive note, I think if the override passes, the town will be in great financial shape, if it did pass.
For the next 3 years.
Yeah, I do. I think that. So that's it. The other thing, like, to look forward, as far as like what to look forward at the special town meeting in October, I'd say, besides addressing any extra appropriation for the school budget that's needed, we will have to, re-vote the Camp Kawani budget before we set the tax rate, because the voted not to have the subsidy. So if there's no subsidy, they're not gonna pass our tax rate. So, but I'm hoping we'll be able to get retained earnings in Camp Kawani, so we can just replace the free cash that was voted here with, so I'm hoping that all works out.
Okay.
But it'll just be like a vote that would have to take at the October special town meeting. And then the other one to keep on the horizon, what we budgeted for is, I anticipate, and Lisa could comment on, there's some contracts that are outstanding, so I anticipate that money needing to be appropriated at the October special town meeting. And I gave Lisa the amount, a dollar amount, to settle the contracts that we've already kind of set aside, so it wouldn't be extra money, we kind of set it aside
Okay.
already.
All right.
So
okay.
that's basically where you stand with
Did anybody
everything.
have any questions?
Yes, I'd like to say, you're talking about free cash.
Correct,
This is the free cash that you know about right now.
right.
We have no idea how much the free cash is gonna be once the cherry sheets and everything else comes out.
Well, it's not going to be
we-
900.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
well, it was quite a bit last year. I was surprised at that. I'm new to this,
Yep,
but it just seems like we got a lot of free cash last year after our town meeting.
yeah. The reason you had a lot of free cash last year is because you had a lot of old articles that they might have got voted in 2019,
So you
2020.
cleaned them all.
I cleaned them
Brought
out.
them
So
out.
that gave you a big lump sum of like
So
free
that had
cash.
nothing to do with the budget settlements from the state.
No, they were like nominal.
That's what I was trying
Yeah.
to say, like.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why, I'm glad you asked, but
Yeah.
that had nothing to do with the high free cash last year. It was more on the fact that we closed off all these one-time articles.
Right.
I don't think they've been looked at for years, so we kind of just took advantage of that and just kind of stockpiled the fruit.
All right, so that was the last hurrah.
Right, I mean, we try to
And
squeeze
that's the
it.
thing, so it's a fair question, and I think there's a lot of understanding out there that we ended up with more free cash than we
Correct.
told people that we were gonna have.
Yeah,
But it did two things, to your point. Because again, I want to emphasize, it's a very fair question, a very fair perception to have, because they're not in the know like the people in this room would be. But you went back years, not just last year, but years.
that's right.
But the second thing that happened is that a lot of folks that were planning to use those funds then got the rug pulled out.
Yes.
And they could no longer fund projects that the town voted that they could for various reasons, and it has nothing to do with you or
Right.
anybody doing anything.
Oh, yes.
But it did have
Yes.
unintended consequences of doing that, whether or
It's
not.
true, but they were projects that had languished.
But it doesn't, my point is that it was projects that we approved, and then
Yeah.
we took the money back because we had to put it somewhere
Yep.
else. It's no fault, no negative, anything, it's just, that is what happened. But there is no other, I mean, you literally shook every couch cushion you could have.
Yeah,
And
I
did amazing
could
work.
probably squeeze a couple more drops out of the lemon.
No, you really did. I mean, you're the only person in history that's actually been able to draw blood from a stone. Like, you've been able to do it. So I don't want to make it seem like the work that you didn't do was unbelievably important to where we are, but it wasn't like we just pulled money out of a hat. So, but it's a very, very fair question.
I mean, we try to be conservative in the revenue estimates, like the local receipts, and that's a generator of free cash. So ideally, I mean, I would hope that the way we budget things, that would at least get, like, between the turnbacks and the budgets and the revenue, I would hope that there'd be like $1 million delta between what we estimate in revenues, but that should be just par for the course. That should be, I mean, you don't want to estimate like 100%, like, you don't want it to be a 50-50 chance, because the consequences of a revenue deficit are a lot greater than the consequences of a revenue surplus. So we try to make it the probability very high that we won't have deficit. So we're conservative, and that does create free cash. So we're not going to get rid of free cash. If we get it down to zero, I mean, it might be more like $1 million, $1.5 million each year, but that's just proper budgeting.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Do you have any more before I jump in? Do you have, no? Okay. So, because those are important questions, and I definitely, so my thing, it might just, I'm probably just, for the sake of repeating, I am curious. So if this doesn't pass on Saturday, we've passed a budget that already absorbs the cuts and things like that, but the one outlier that I'm still kind of harping on becomes that school assessment. So we're only in charge of the operational budget. We are not at all in charge of 50%, give or take, of the overall budget, because 50% of that is the school. That is the school committee. That is 100% in their purview. We have no say of any of those things. Yeah. And the reason why I'm kind of going around this route here, so if this doesn't pass on Saturday, the only thing that we can do is cut operations that we are in charge of.
You either cut operations or use whatever we got left on the reserve, use the rest of it, which kind of what we'd end up doing. But what that's going to do is create next year. There is no room to move next year. So next year, if it doesn't pass and we have to use all the free cash in October, I think the time has to be spent. If there's not going to be any override in this town, there's going to have to be like a blue ribbon commission to reduce the size of government.
Yeah, okay, no, and that's fair as well. And I'm not trying to make it seem like we're pitting, I just really want people to be very.
How we can reduce that.
No, but that's my thing, is like, I just want people to know going in, like, how important the vote is on Saturday, and one way or another, it doesn't matter, but this is also kind of this is kind of a rhetorical question, because I also know the school committee is gonna say, and validly so, that they can't make cuts either in the 50% of the budget that they're asking for, but it really just comes back to, okay, what can we do as a board? And on Saturday, if it doesn't pass, we're only in charge of 50%, we can only gut so much that we can gut, and then the other 50%, if that assessment doesn't come down after it gets kicked back, really kind of holds up the 50% that we're in charge of.
Right.
Well, and I think the other piece of the school budget is we don't know where Whitman's going to, so if Whitman passes it, they've already passed it at town meeting, if they pass it, then there's going to be no incentive at all for really the school committee to reduce.
Right.
Can I ask a question? What is in our tax bill? This is, I apologize. I don't know why that's happening, because I had my phone shut off. What is, back in the day, I remember our tax bills used to have on it how much of this budget, how much of the money of our taxes was going to the schools. Right. That's gone now, and I think it's gone for a reason. How much of our taxes are paying for that school? what, 40%?
Yeah, I think it would
30%?
just, the easiest way to do it would be just what we said, like 45%.
Okay, so 45% of our budget is going to the schools.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's untenable, and I'm making a statement here, that is untenable. And I understand that the school department, the school budget isn't going to be lowered. Someone has to bring that to heel, and I'm sorry, but it's out of control. And I know I'm making a very unpopular statement, I don't care.
I don't know if it's unpopular.
No,
But it's the
I
truth.
don't think it's
the truth.
unpopular. I do think that-
45% of our money that we can't do anything about, and we have to lay off good people to satisfy that school budget.
Now,
I
the
think that's
difference
horrible.
between us and other towns, yes, most
We're a
towns.
regional system. I
Right,
understand.
most towns, it is still
We could-
around 45%, but you've got direct control in being able to
Right.
influence that school committee versus the regional school committee.
And the other thing is, like, I deal with a lot of other different towns too, and this is like nothing new. It's like the same playbook.
Yep,
Like
yep.
the regionals, it's almost the same exact thing. And it's kind of, I mean, the only thing that you don't really have control of that you do, like, everybody put in basically a level services budget to school too, okay? So level services. So if we don't have the money, we're taking a proportional cut off our level services. So the fair thing would be, you would think, that they take a proportional cut off their level services.
right.
So when that doesn't happen, that creates an inequity.
Yep.
That's all.
Well put, well
And the
put.
45% becomes.
Right.
Correct, yeah,
it doesn't.
yeah, well put. And good perspective
I just
on
want
that.
that elephant in the room to be very clear. That's
Well, and a couple other things that I've been hearing people say, you know, they're concerned that we're taxing seniors out of their house. The town, Facebook page had put out some, tax breaks that are available to seniors and veterans and disabled folks. So just be aware of that. And then another thing that I've seen is, well, what is the Board of Selectmen doing to increase revenues? And I'll be honest, we are doing stuff. The Economic Development Committee is working on this.
yes.
We are working on it, but we cannot make businesses locate in Hanson. We cannot take businesses hostage and make them come to Hanson. Similarly, I've seen comments that are, well, the town needs to stop people from building. How would we do that?
Seize their land.
If people own property and they comply with the regulations, then they will be permitted to build what they've applied for. And if you owned the property, you would want that to be the case too. So I just wanted to, these are like the frequently repeated myths and questions. Just wanted to address those. You know, we are a bedroom community. And quite honestly, although I think the Economic Development Committee is doing important work, and I have no, I know that we'll be successful in attracting some businesses, the size of the business we would have to attract to this town to really materially change where that tax revenue is coming from would be mind-bogglingly huge. And we don't actually even have any available space that would fill that, so.
I mean, the most creative use of the space is there's the stuff right next to the on Main Street, isn't it? Where you have the livable and then you have the new
Yeah.
businesses that are there.
Yeah.
But I think it's 97% residential, 3% commercial,
like that,
right?
yeah.
So you'd literally have to increase, to make it 50-50, you'd have to increase the amount of businesses to match the number of houses
Right.
that exist right now,
Yeah.
which in bigger towns with more land and more developed areas, you could theoretically do that. Here, it's not realistic.
We just, yeah.
I do think though, and I just want to say to piggyback off that, I think this is a good opportunity for folks. These are the conversations we actually want to have, because a lot of times we're just kind of talking to the camera and saying, look at the things that we're doing, and we're trying really hard to talk as much as humanly possible to the camera so that people know all the different types of efforts to be in full transparency. It would be beneficial that if people did want to come and ask questions, they should do that, because
Please.
this board, for whatever it's worth, again, this is a talking to the camera thing, we're only in charge of 50% of the budget, if you really think about that. The other 50% is not this board. And it's important that a lot of those questions, that if you're trying to figure out who's managing the budget, we're only in charge of 50% of it. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And Eric, you do a fantastic job, for whatever it's worth, of really trying to do the best with 50%. I mean, you literally have one arm tied behind your back, and you're trying to make it work. So genuinely, like, kudos to you. You work magic. You really genuinely do. But for the people that are curious where their tax dollars are going, This board can only give you literally half the answer. The other answer is the school committee. They're in charge.
And I have to be honest with you, for the half or whatever, 40, 50, whatever percent that we're responsible for, I feel super confident that we are stretching dollars as far as we can. We are out there, I say we in the royal sense, really Tony and Lisa, and I have to say other departments out there going after grants like there's no tomorrow. Like, years ago, our town never got, we got very small amounts of grants. But since we have gotten Tony and we've had Lisa, they have been really going after the money. We also benefited tremendously from the pandemic relief funds, which ended up going to be used for things we would have had to have used free cash for, or they just simply wouldn't have gotten done. So, when I think about all of what we've been able to achieve on the budget that we've been able to achieve, I'm pretty proud of it. And I got to tell you, other towns have left ARPA money on the table. We have not. And that is something to be proud of. So,
That's the thing for you, Lisa, too. Accolades to that, because you got more money than we were allocated, I believe, right? So, because you went after some of that extra funding.
Yeah.
At least doesn't leave anything on the table. They say there's $5 available. What can we spend for, what can we do an application for?
And that's the way we want it, and so I really feel as though this board has we've sold all kinds of properties that the town owned. We've, every opportunity, we're looking at how to use light control, the piece of property down in the industrial park. These are the nurses' quarters. What can we do with that? We're looking at all of the underutilized properties. So I feel very confident that as a board, we're really doing everything we can.
And with all the things we've done, like you said, you say, we could become a 50-50, but that's not what the townspeople told us when they took these surveys.
Ed.
That's
You're
not
right.
what the people of Hanson want.
Yeah, 'cause Braintree
So if we
60-40,
did that
so-
and balance the budget that way,
You couldn't do it.
we're not doing what the people of Hanson asked us to
We
do.
can't stay a
So-
small town and have all kinds of.
Well, the other
That's
side
okay.
of that coin too is we've got a town we border it, that has a large business base, and they have nothing but trouble with their budgets because of the strain, the additional apartments and everything else, and the retail and everything else puts on their departments, on their fire department, on their police department. So it's, just
There is no
because you get
simple-
more business
yeah,
doesn't mean that it solves all your problems.
There's no simple
We
solution.
want more business, don't get me wrong.
But there is no simple solution, but I do want people to know, I know people don't have time to listen to all of our meetings, and nor do I expect them to. But I do, we talk about this in our meetings. We talk about the things that we're doing. Behind the scenes, we've got all kinds of people, really, really trying to stretch the dollar as far as we possibly can. We've entered into a regional agreement for dispatch services. We've done shared services for some of the, the services at Town Hall. We've explored every option we possibly can to stretch our dollar. We're always open to additional suggestions, however, and we would be willing to pursue them.
And just for the sake of just adding a little bit more to that, we can only speak for for this board, and the things that we've done. So you can't raise more funds without either increasing taxes. There's no other way to bring money in. The only way we bring money in to fund the town is through taxes. That is what your taxes goes towards. So there's only a handful of ways to do that. One is, again, the override. The other thing is to sell more land to people, which we've gone down that road. But then the catch-22 to that is, then you're in some people's perspectives, overdeveloping the town. Because the minute you sell somebody a property, that property is now theirs and not the town's. We have conservation for a reason, to protect land, to ensure that the land and the aesthetic of the town remains what you want it to be, because this board does hear people loud and clear about what type of a town we want, right? So every piece of land that we sell is a short-term injection of funds, but at the cost of developing and doing all the things that some people in the town don't want, because they moved into Hanson because they want that aesthetic here. So if we sell that property, whether it be commercial or residential, the answer is taxes is the answer. And it does become a circular argument. So for this board, it's really hard for us to balance keeping the aesthetic of the town and not overdeveloping the town, which is the only other way outside of increasing above 2.5% that we have the power to do. So, again, just to put a bow on it, the other 50% is outside of our control. We can't cut anything, we can't raise anything, we can't run fundraisers, we can't do anything that would allow for donations to come into the town in these because you can't run a municipal government that way. We were very lucky to have that one-shot injection when you went back and shook all the couch cushions out. We were really helpful to have another one-time injection of funds through the opera stuff that we were able to collect. But those avenues are now gone. The only avenue we have is to raise funds is through taxes, either commercially or residentially, but it's at the cost of the aesthetic of the town. The other way of doing it is through expenses, which is cuts. And then you're at a dangerous level. So I just really want to Saturday is a huge thing, which is the only reason why I want to harp on this a little bit. Saturday is a huge vote for some folks. It's not just this board that has the say. The other board controls the other half. Doesn't matter whether you think we're overspending, underspending, or somewhere in between. It is literally outside of our control and outside of our hands. We've done everything we can to try to keep the budget in a meaningful way.
One thing I would like to, I know this is I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, is the idea that the 50% of the budget is out of our control. But I'd like I'm gonna personally push for it, is to see what we can do to get pre-K through 8 back under Hanson and not in Whitman Hanson. Because then less than 50% is like then only, I don't know what percent that would be if it was just a high school was in the regional agreement, what percent that would be, and then we could control.
Back in the day, that's
Have you read the deregionalization report
But yeah.
and the costs? So here's the problem. We need money to do that.
Well, we need to figure, that's.
No, we need money. We would need to hire legal counsel. We would need to get a group of citizens together, and then we would need to sit down.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna take money for us to do that, so.
But can I make the point that deregionalization study was written by Desi, who is in the business of regionalizing schools?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's wrong, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay attention to it, but at the same time, I think we need to put
That wasn't written by Desi. It was a consultant that was
I'm pretty
hired.
sure that it was.
It was not Desi. It was a separate consultant that we hired. Desi would never do a report.
We hired a separate
We
consultant.
we hired a
And
consultant.
it wasn't someone associated with Desi, because that's what.
I mean, we didn't interview people whether they were
No, no, I
associated
know,
or
I
not,
know,
but no, they were a separate consulting firm it was no involvement of
There seems to
Desi
be
at
a
all.
large push in town for us to reconsider that, and I feel the same way as Ed. We're gonna get in trouble for saying it, but at the same time, we keep saying they control us 50% of our budget. We gotta take it back.
Well, then fine, then we should form a deregionalization committee. I think it's bigger than what we're able
I
to
know,
drive.
I know.
And then we should take a look at what the costs are. But again, if we're not given funding to do
Right.
anything, we can't do anything.
We need to know but the first
think
thing
it's
is to find what the costs, I'm sorry.
No, I was talking over you.
To find what the costs are, is there, what is the cost? Is it cost prohibitive? If it's cost
Well, this
prohibitive,
is,
the
yeah,
answer
this
is
is the
no.
point too that I was gonna
Well,
get
one
to,
of
is
the
that
things, one of the major things that came up out of, were you guys on the board or no?
I think
at the very,
very beginning.
very
Okay,
beginning.
Yeah,
all right,
must have been
yeah, I thought
right
you
when they
were.
first came
So
out.
the thing about the deregionalization is if you go the K through 8, you're having complete redundancies. You need to have your own superintendent, your own curriculum
Right.
person, your own payroll person, your own HR person. You're gonna have complete duplication, maybe duplicity, but not really. Duplication of services. So right away, you've got all of those costs.
That's one of the things, my final point was, the townspeople who want this deregionalization have to realize it's going to cost more money in the long run.
Right.
It is.
But we don't
But
know what that means.
but we will have more control.
So I'm fine with forming another, or even reconstituting, although Jim Hickey was driving it, from the select board, but, I'm fine with, if you guys want to form that and have people look at it again. I really honestly think that people didn't pay attention when it was presented, by the committee that had studied it. Because when I saw it, it was very compelling, and there was really no, it just literally didn't make any financial shape. Now, people may still say, you know what, we don't care, we want this, we want our own sovereignty, we just don't want to be tied in, and we know that financially, maybe it doesn't, like on paper, makes sense, but we're going to feel better about it, we still want to do, that's fine, whatever the voters want, whatever the will of the
So
citizens.
I know that Pembroke is struggling now, that they have pulled themselves out for how long from Silver Lake?
Wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago, and I know that Pembroke is they're in serious quandaries there, money-wise and otherwise, but I think they're still pleased that they did it, but I think that the people with kids at school are pleased that they did it. I don't think that the people who have been in town long-term are well-served by it.
Our costs will go up. We
Yes,
won't get
yes.
reimbursed for regional transportation, like we'll have to pay 100% of the nut for that. Like, there's a lot of pitfalls for the unwary and unintended. And although, I will say, we're not getting the funding that we should from the state.
No, we're not.
Which is, another piece of the equation. We likely are still getting more than we would if we were not regionalized.
Even though we're paying 10% and they're, you know what I mean? Because it's not a level playing field as far as per student. We're paying a lot more than Whitman is per student.
We're not paying a lot more, we're paying more.
My personal opinion
Yeah.
on this is, and this is not like a sell, one way or another for Saturday's vote, but you need the funding to even have these considerations.
That's what I'm saying.
So like,
Yeah.
Saturday is going to be a really deciding
Exactly.
factor of like, do you want, because there's so much nuance, and I apologize for having to just have to sit. That's okay. Maybe this will be like another conversation.
It is, yeah.
In a much more prepared way, because I think we're just kind of talking
Right.
anecdotally at this point, but and rightfully so. It's totally fair. I do think that, yes, you get some controls if you go down that road. The controls are, the budget's going to be, you're going to consciously make the decision that our budget's going to go way up.
Yep.
But we have more control over the personnel and all that other stuff. I don't think you're going to have savings. So my argument would be, you're going to be paying more objectively. We've got to get more numbers on that, so it's more objective and less just anecdotal. But I do think you're going to have more control. You're going to be paying more. So the offset would be, is the increase in taxation going to be worth having more controls at K through 8 level?
Here's
That's really
here's the dilemma, though. It's primarily folks who, and let me clear this up by saying, I don't want to have to pay more taxes.
Me too.
Okay?
That's the thing.
I don't want to pay more
That's my thing.
taxes. But it is primarily folks that really want very lean government and want no new taxes, no matter what you're telling them, stick within the 2.5%. That's the same people that are saying they want to deregionalize, but it's going to cost more money.
Well, saying it, this is why it
Right.
goes full circle to like the citizen position. Saying it in theory has consequences that are real. So you could be like, no, I promise you, I know everything there is to know about municipal government, and this is the way it should be. And then when you vote it in, it's like, no, now these are all the things that the fine print that,
Repercussions.
yeah.
And there really are a lot of pitfalls for the unwary. I mean, I'm wondering if, obviously we've got a lot going on right now, but maybe we could plan on, shortly after in June, say, I don't know, just brushing off
And reading it again, going
study,
through it again.
reading it through again. Maybe even we could see if we could get Jim Hickey to come and tell us,
Numbers man.
Yeah, he is,
He was really good with the numbers.
I don't know if he'd be willing
Yeah.
to, but we could ask him to come and maybe even see if there's members of the committee, because they really it was really quite a cross-pollination of talents and people that were on that committee. It was not one bent or another. It was just like a bunch of citizens at large. They dug into the numbers.
It was really methodical. Like, they
It
did a
was
good
very
job.
methodical.
But just to finish what I was saying, the idea was, we did a mini version of this with the transfer station subcommittee. And then we came to the conclusion that if we went to like full trash town, curbside pickup and just got eliminated, it would be more money.
Right, no.
So like,
Yeah.
it's another example of like,
And then we
if you
stop.
don't, so if you don't flush it out, like fully with the numbers and really know what you're getting into and make an informed decision, it's really just
Right.
thoughts. It's theory.
I'm willing to go through it one more time if that's what people want, if we, and who knows, maybe some of the numbers have changed a little, I don't know.
I'm the same way. If people think it's a good use of our time, we should do it.
Yeah. So I don't hear anybody saying that we shouldn't do it. So Ms. Cafardo,
Okay, I remember it clearly,
thank you.
and it was gonna cost $25 million
Yeah.
a year to do what everybody wanted to do. We don't have 25.
No, we don't.
Agreed.
We don't.
And the group that was formed, and Jim Hickey was in charge, they felt it was too big a job.
Yes, they did.
You hired someone, I wanna say, to the tune of $50,000?
Yes, we got, yep.
Where
Yep.
are we getting the 50,000?
Well, we got that $50,000, town meeting had appropriated it, but now in the fiscal situation that we're in, we don't have
I don't
that.
think people
Yeah.
would vote for that,
No.
to go for it again.
Well, I don't know, maybe they would, if we say, you want us to look at deregionalization one more time, you've got to fund
Gotta
it.
pay for it.
I think
You know.
it's a good idea to
Yeah,
go
just a
back and look
second.
at what you already have
Yeah.
and re-inform the community.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
We don't want history to repeat itself, and those numbers have only gone up. It's not like it's a stagnant thing.
And you're right, I was very surprised when they presented to us, there was no division
Yeah.
amongst that committee, and like I said, it was a cross-pollination of people, and they were like, this makes no financial sense at all. That's why we never pursued it.
I mean, there's a simple way to try to get at some of these things, and that is elections, right? Like, if you want more of a say on the budget of that 45 to 50%, elections matter. You go back and you just say, all right, school committee, who's up and who aligns with the values of what we're looking for? And then you either run yourself or you vote for someone that aligns with your, I mean,
All right, so
that's what it is.
All right, so one more time with Phil, and we'll take a look at it. Let's
Yeah.
plan on doing it in June. But I would recommend that people, and perhaps, Ms. Green, you could share with us, or, at our next meeting, it was a recorded meeting in open session. The study itself is out on our website.
Yeah.
This is all being done in open air, open meeting, for all to see and hear. And although it may not be what people wanted to hear, which is that it would be cheaper, it is what it is, but we can revisit it. Ms. Green, you wanted to say something, though?
And don't forget, you're bringing another union to the town. You're bringing the teachers' union to the town.
That's a
So when
quite
you
excellent
try and
point.
figure out, what it's gonna cost, you've got that union out there, and we've seen what's happened with the teachers' union. So that is always going to be, the dice. Okay, what are the teachers' unions going to do? So that's a very powerful union, so that's something to really consider.
Yep.
That's gonna cost considerable money for, deal with the unions, and the transportation companies have the unions as well. So you're kind of bringing in two new unions into the town.
Well, I think that's
that-
part of the reason why it was gonna be $25 million.
Yes,
Well, because you
right,
need a
yeah.
business manager, you need an accountant.
Need
you
human
need-
resources.
human
yeah, so
resources.
Salaries.
The
Yeah.
personnel needs to increase considerably.
Food costs.
Yeah.
That's
Just
only going
food
up.
for thought, but I don't recall whether they pointed out that you're having a new union.
I don't remember seeing
A
that at all.
new union that comes to us, that is a very powerful union.
I don't remember seeing that, or
So, and I don't think
hearing
that
it.
those
Yeah.
costs were considered either,
Yeah.
so.
All right, so I'll reach out to Mr. Hickey, but if you could recirculate that study to us and
Absolutely.
the link to the recording, just so everybody can bone up before we talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how the heck we got
I don't
there.
know either, but
This
run
was
away,
all-
quick, run away.
This was all from a town meeting recap, okay.
Like dismissed?
All right. Any other questions
Yeah, all right.
for, okay, all right, great.
Faces.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
MBTA Community Act update, Ms. Green.
So we did get a quick update from our attorney regarding the court. Hold on, I just want to pull up exactly what he said. So there was a hearing, but primarily it was regarding the town of Wenham, that is partnering with Duxbury and Weston to make arguments in favor of an injunction and against the Commonwealth's request for dismissal. He said they were also able to reemphasize the points that our town council made on behalf of Middleton, Holden, Rentham, and Hanson, which he doesn't say what the arguments were, but he said the judge again put us through the paces, but as was the case previously, he seemed to appreciate our arguments and suggestions as to how we might facilitate an expedient adjudication. The judge really asked the Attorney General some tough questions, which in our town council's view were not answered effectively. So right now, it remains difficult to predict how or when the judge may act, but certainly took note of the fact that there are looming deadlines. So this was as of Friday, May 9th, so that's the most up-to-date information I
Okay,
have.
now, at town meeting, we did not get approval for money to defend ourselves for the event, the lawsuit that will happen. It's just a matter of when. What is going to happen if we are sued with no money?
I would have to ask town council. I mean, basically,
Because
In
town
the
council
legal
doesn't
world.
have to
if you are served, that, that with a summons that you're being sued. I mean, I know there was somebody that said, you just don't show up. But what that does is the court issues a judgment of default against you. So if you have the plaintiff saying, the defendant didn't even show up, Judge, I'm gonna ask you, I want you to order them to do this, 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 and this. There's nobody over on this side arguing against it, so the judge may grant that to the plaintiff. I mean, I don't know.
I honestly think that's a dereliction
But
of
if we-
our duty.
if-
It is
you
our
cannot
job.
just not show
No,
up.
it is our job as the select board to defend the town and make sure that the town is in the best legal position. It would be a dereliction of our duty to just say,
We're not gonna show up.
yeah, we're not showing up.
Do we think it could go that far between now and October if we were to put a
we
similar
don't know.
question in
Well, I think
October?
it's gonna go I think it's July, we're looking at July.
I think
Yeah,
July
yeah.
13th was the
Yeah,
was,
July
we're
13th.
complying until
Quite
July
likely, if they're
13th.
going to do something, it's gonna be after that interim compliance deadline of July 1st,
Yep.
and then they're gonna make a decision. They're probably planning on what they're gonna do now for the towns that, because some towns have gone back to town meeting and they've passed it,
Right.
so the list is getting,
Because that was the,
you know.
that was the discussion at town meeting is, well, if they put a court case out at July 10th, or, whatever, they say, they come out July, whatever it is, and say, okay, we're gonna take you to court, and they said it was gonna be after the October town meeting, but we can't guarantee
we
that.
don't know that, and again, we're
And I-
doing the will of the people, but we're not being given the money to do the will of the people,
So-
which is to defend the town against the MBTA community stuff.
What do we, I mean, I wish Eric was here, but what if, say, we get taken to court before October, what are our options to pay for?
Well, I think we did, what we did, would have to deficit spend.
Okay.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
we're going to deficit
Yep,
spending.
would have to deficit
But
spend.
we don't, I mean, can we just agree, though, that it's not an option to not show up? Like, because
Absolutely.
I understand the passion behind that as a thing, but let's just be like, you cannot not show up to court. So, there is no, but it's not even that. They could issue bench warrants, they could arrest you and make you go to court. It's not like you can just, default's probably the easiest option that we could possibly have. There are a whole host of things that would put us in a very bad spot, and quite frankly, it would never be good for our case in any way, shape, or form to just not go to
No,
court.
agreed.
So I
Is there
think we
anybody here who thinks that that's?
that was my big question, was like.
Appropriate
Yeah.
response?
Yeah,
Okay, all
okay.
right,
I think
okay.
it's a given.
Because I think we have to agree that we are going no matter what.
Yes.
And if that means we have to deficit spend, we have to deficit spend.
I mean, and for anybody out there that's saying, well, I don't agree with them, look up what the duties of the Board of Selectmen, what our duties are. Literally, one of the first lines is to defend the town in lawsuits and legal matters.
Yeah.
So it is our job. like I said, it would be a dereliction of duty.
And we'd
So-
also need to just make sure we could deficit spend for something like this. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't come up a whole
No,
lot.
Eric said we might even have to borrow.
We might have to borrow.
Without
Yeah.
town meeting approval.
Right.
Like emergency borrowing, like you do if some catastrophic event happened, like we might even have to do that.
That's most
Which would
likely the
affect our
path we
bond
need to
rating
take.
and a bunch of other things, so, I know people were feeling spicy, and, you know, they had their reasons, and I mean, and quite honestly, I think FinCom not supporting it probably didn't help the case. I know why they didn't, because it was coming from free cash, and they were really trying to shut down anything coming out of free cash, and I get that, and I appreciate it. But I guess we'll hope that it doesn't have, anything happens before October.
Yeah, I wish, maybe we need to have a meeting with, the finance committee, because there was a few of those items that got on the warrant, that got turned down, voted no, that in reality were not good for the town to be voted no. This being one of them, and the highways,
I don't disagree with you, but the issue that I have with that is, you know, the decision is going to be made on Saturday. There's the only reason why I'm even
Yes.
entertaining the idea of belaboring all these points.
yeah.
It's so, Saturday matters. Like, it matters a lot. We've done as much information pushing as we possibly can about this, and I just want to divert the conversation away from whether or not the schools are getting funded. That's a completely separate conversation. You have that at a school committee meeting. For us, we cannot defend against the MBTA stuff. We cannot, you know, do the roadways during storms. We are not going to have enough fire or police. We are not going to have anything to operate at the level that we need to, let alone being able to fund any of the capital improvements that we want to be able to fund. We're already at a place where we have to wait until October to even see if we're going to get the ability to do routine maintenance for anything that we're doing right now. And it's not a scare tactic. It's not any of those things. None of that stuff matters. We have huge projects that we will literally not be able to fund if Saturday doesn't go that way. To me, it doesn't matter one way or another as a voter. I have my opinion. As a select board member, I am just advocating for what we need as a town to operate. My individual vote means nothing on Saturday. As my job right now is to say, if you go in there and vote no, we cannot do these things. If you vote yes, then we can have these conversations. And that it really just comes down to that.
And it comes down to the voting no, is you lose people, and then they say, okay, in October, why don't we vote yet, we'll do something.
But it's not
to bring
just
it back.
people.
You can't just bring it back.
Well, I think that's why Ann's question was so important when Eric was here, because the last time it gave the illusion that all of a sudden we found money.
Right.
We didn't, and it was a disservice to anything that we asked for in the future. So it's really important to recognize that, like, that was smoke and mirrors, because I felt really salty when we came back in October and we had all this extra money. I'm like, what were we fighting for?
Exactly.
You made it look like we're liars. This is not that way.
No.
Yep.
And it wasn't that we were liars, it was that
It was just a perception of it, and they rightfully so. I mean, they had every right to feel like we were.
So, one of the things too that I heard at town meeting, I hear the sentiment is they're punishing us by not voting for the stuff that
100%.
we ask for. We want to defend the town. We want to make the roads safe. That's what we want to do. We are not trying to spend people's money frivolously. And believe me, I can't afford a tax increase. I'm on a fixed income now. I work a little part-time job. My husband's going to retire. I want to stay in my house. I've been in my house for 48 years. I don't want to leave it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's the perception that there is waste in this building, in town hall and
Oh, yeah,
town services.
there is.
And Eric and us, we,
It's not.
if there was something there
I have to
that we're
say, since
wasting.
I came on this board too, that, you know, in a way, I kind of expected to find,
Something,
and I've been so pleased to see how hard people work at not having waste,
yeah,
you know.
It's the truth.
because
I
at
can't-
higher levels
I
there
don't,
is.
and people out there in Facebook land and whatever don't believe it, and
Yeah.
come in and talk to us.
Yeah.
What I-
Instead of yelling at each other on Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah. What I value about this board is that you have, truly, you have all different types of socioeconomic status. You have all different types of political opinions and backgrounds, and we all come to the same conclusion, for the most part,
Work
when
for
it
the
comes
town.
to this.
Yeah.
There is no waste. There is no fraud or abuse. There is no secret stash hiding somewhere. We might differ on policy and opinions on policy, but when it comes to funding this and the efforts that have gone into the budget, whether it's budget A or budget B, everybody came together and came to the same conclusion. The cuts are the cuts, and if we get the override to pass, then where the money's gonna go is planful, it's thoughtful, it's not done in a way that's trying to take advantage of the tax dollar. It really is truly stretching.
I agree. I don't think we could have been any more transparent or done any better of a job communicating. And now,
I just wish
Now it's just up
people
to
on
the voters.
Facebook would know that, because Facebook is just people.
The problem with Facebook is that text doesn't have a tone, and you can't spend all day trying to argue with a one-sided opinion. You just can't. This is the best forum. I'm very proud, for whatever it's worth, of the effort that town hall, all the departments, this board, all of the ancillary boards, all of the appointed boards, everybody has come together year after year, put differences aside, and try to do what's best for the town. What we've put forward is the most transparent, most thought out, even with the finance committee. It doesn't go without arguments or different opinion there. It's still what it is. Can't go anymore.
and honestly, Ed, I hear what you're saying about FinCom, but, I do think, so the lens they're looking through is very finely calibrated, and the lens they're looking through is, if we can't afford to do this from free cash, we're not going to support, and
I
so
understand
when
that.
I looked at the articles, I was like, okay, if I was on FinCom, if I was wearing that hat, I would have had to have said no too.
Right,
So,
but like
you know.
this one, you're saying, the MBTA committee, if we talked to them and said, if we don't, at least, maybe make it 100,000, make it less money, but at least let us start
Something
to
to get us
defend
through,
ourselves. And then get to October. But instead of saying, because they said no, there are many people that say, oh, FinCom said no, so we're okay to say no because FinCom said no.
But I think they're smart enough to know that if we have to borrow or deficit spend because we're in a crisis, they're not foolish.
They know what-
they know that we have an escape hatch if we
Yeah.
absolutely had to break the glass.
Yeah.
So I think all their recommendations come from that lens as well, is that they do know there's emergency funds available if we absolutely have it.
And I think philosophically, they're committed to toe the line.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Because if you cave on that, then you gotta cave on this, and for Pete's sake, they were gonna cut 8,000 from the senior center,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
which and torpedo.
If you have a conversation with some of those people,
Torpedo every single one of them.
no, it's the truth, but if you have a conversation with any one of them, they don't make their decisions lightly.
No, they
It's not
don't,
like
and I
they're-
respect the job, they
Yeah.
did a great job. I really think everybody involved did a really great job. And now it's up to the voters, and we will deal with whatever the outcome of the vote is on Saturday, and we will do our utmost best, as we always do, with whatever budget we have got. So I'm trying to put a little bow on that and move on. Did anybody else have anything else? I feel like we just had a group therapy session here. Okay, then Mr. DeFreitas, were you here to talk to us about anything in particular? Did I have you as a planning update?
Under committee updates.
Oh, committee,
Committee updates, okay.
okay, yeah.
Planning board
Oh,
updates?
all right, well, let's just get to the liquor license. Okay, great. I'm sorry that I've tortured you by making you stay the course here. I will entertain a motion to approve the one-day liquor licenses for Melanie Bryan, 5/24/25, Jill Hopkins, 6/28/25, and Hanson Historical Society Craft Fair, 5/17, with rain date 5/18/25. But before we do that, Ms. Green and Ms. Tierderson, and I'm sorry if I'm killing your name, Doreen, have we made sure we've got the liability insurance from the Hanson Historical Society because they want to serve liquor on that day?
Yes, we do have
Okay,
it.
all right,
And
great.
they did sign the, waiver of liability.
Okay, great. I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Amazing. Okay, meeting minutes from April 29th, 2025, open meeting minutes, April 29th, 2025, and May 5th, 2025. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Amazing. Committee updates, I don't have much on Economic Development Committee. We're meeting this Thursday, but I am excited to share that we now, I believe, are a full board.
So we truly are removing.
You've got one
got a
committee you
little
can
shorter.
cross off your list
Well, all
for
right.
recruitments.
That's huge.
And I'm excited because it's just a great cross-section
Mm-hmm.
of people. We've got 2 new guys with some new fresh ideas, and it's going to be great. High Street Park Committee.
Nope.
Okay, amazing. Highway Committee?
Our meeting is going to be rescheduled.
Okay. And Whitman Hanson Regional, nothing since the last time that I spoke to you. Planning Board updates, Mr. DeFrayis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, we were scheduled for basically our yearly planning update to the select board.
Oh, okay, I would have had you as part of our new business, sorry about that. All right.
I was going to do a PowerPoint, 'cause I know Mr. Weeks loves my PowerPoints.
Yes,
But
yes, I do.
I saw your agenda, so I decided to just give you some paper
It's
copies.
always best to go old school with the hard copies anyway, because we do have some logistical complications, which we hope to solve if we have our IT person come on board soon.
So, what you have before you is a list of the projects that the planning department has been working on. I've highlighted the ones I'm going to touch on tonight. So beginning on page 1, which is our current one-stop grants, is the Main Street Pedestrian Improvements Grant. So that is the town, we received a grant, we hired a consultant, we're going through the process of designing sidewalks for Main Street, a section of Main Street from High Street to Elm Street. The consultant said about a 75% completion rate, been before the planning board we had public hearings. We're still in the public hearing process. They're taking in information from stakeholders and addressing any of the issues that the board has and the folks that would be affected along that stretch of the roadway. The second one is 0 West Washington Street. That was also a one-stop grant, and that is the piece of property that's adjacent to the water department on West Washington Street. So the consultant had created sketches, and at a later date, I would like to come before the select board as we get further along and basically give you a slide presentation so you can see of the different projects where they are plan-wise. So on that one, the consultant had created some sketches. They delineated a resource area, which is a wetland out on the property. They filed what's known as a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, or ANRAD for short, with the Conservation Commission. There's going to be a public hearing held next week, May the 21st. They've also done soil testing throughout the site to get an idea of what the soil conditions are in various areas of the site. So that will assist when we get to a point that the property, if the town wishes to either do something with or move on, there'll be a lot of information. There'll be hopefully an approved wetland line, which would be valid for 3 years. There'll be soil testing, so there'll be a lot of information that would make the property marketable. And so then the select board could decide what you want to do, but you'd have a lot of valuable information that would be available that if you were a client in the private sector, you would want to know before you invested in that property.
Yep. Now, these first 2 grants are things that came out of the Economic Development Committee asking Mr. DeFrayis to work on them. So like the Main Street, the sidewalks, we had been hearing from people that they felt like they were playing chicken trying to get to the commuter rail because the sidewalks are so pitiful. And I've even seen people looking very scared as they're walking along, particularly next to the Ocean Spray Building. And we thought that that would help, with economic development to sort of like make it easier for people to walk along. And then, of course, we've already discussed that building down near the water department. The Smart Growth Grant, I guess you guys had a hearing on that last night, right?
Yes, so we had another grant through the One Stop, which was to investigate smart growth zoning in Hanson, which would look at 40Y, which is for starter homes. And then also look at 40R, which is a mix of retail and business. What they found is that basically with Hanson and the lay of the land, the 40Y doesn't really work that well. The 40R works better. So we held our first public hearing on the 12th, last night. So the consultant came in and presented information and a PowerPoint as to what their results were. It met with mixed reviews. So on page 2, the highlighted project is 212 Industrial Boulevard. That was also a one-stop grant. We have, it's a piece of property within the industrial park. It's the last piece that the town owns within the industrial park. We've executed the contract with the state. The state has executed the contract with the consultant. So now we're just waiting for them to move forward and start the work. So the work that'll be done there is similar to the West Washington Street. There's a resource area, so they'll flag the resource area, they'll survey the property, they'll do some soil testing.
And I know you didn't have these highlighted, but the Hawks Avenue one, I do want to highlight that we got a grant to test the area. Contamination was found, and then we got a grant to clean up the contamination.
Yes, the first.
So I just want to highlight that contamination was found at the former light control buildings.
Is the grant over on July 1st, or is this?
Yes.
So is cleanup occurring?
My understanding is, you remember through, I think you, Mr. Representative Sweezy discussed it, is that and our understanding is that once the contract is executed, that it wouldn't be pulled back, because in essence, it becomes a breach of contract. Does that mean that's not, does that mean that that's not gonna happen? Can't say.
Yeah.
And the deadline is actually July 14th.
Okay.
So the first grant that you talked about was a $100,000 one. The second one for the cleanup is $237,000, so that we have almost $400,000 in grant money there to deal with that property.
And this is exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about when people say, what's the town doing to bring in money, to bring in revenue, to keep down costs? This is what I'm talking about. This stuff needs to be done, but we've, through the good work of our town planner, we're doing this, but at no cost to the Hanson taxpayers.
Yeah, so the hope obviously is once that site gets all squared away, then in essence, we'll hopefully still be eligible for grants, and then pursue a grant similar to the West Washington and the Industrial Boulevard to go for that, some type of development area. So on the third page, under the Community Preservation Committee projects, we received funding from the Community Preservation, or the CPC, for our open space and recreation plan. So the consultant has pretty much almost what you'd call a final draft version of that. They had requested photographs. Mr. Mansfield was able to provide me with a lot of photographs of the various areas, which was great. And those will be part of the open space and recreation plan. The next step is, all the comments have been received. The next step is to finalize that OSRP and then submit it to the state for their review. The next one is the housing production plan.
Well, and may I just chime in for 1 second? Both of these are cases where there are grants we cannot apply for if we do not have updated plans.
Correct.
So just, it's blocking and tackling that has to be done. Fortunately, it is a permitted use under community preservation.
Correct. The open space and recreation plan had a 5-year shelf life, so that expired in 2024. The good news is the new one, we can get up to 10 years out of it. So once this one's approved, we'll have 10-year window versus a 7-year window. The Hanson Housing Production Plan, that is, the planning board approved that last night. That's pretty much ready to go to the state for review and approval. One of the final steps will actually have to have a hearing with the select board so that you could approve it as well. And then we'll move it on to the HLC for their review. Once they review, they might make some comments, we might make some changes, and then they would approve it. And then that one would be good for 5 years, I believe.
Okay.
0 Phillip Street, which is the contentious
Yes.
funding last year at town meeting. That's a town-owned property, the Hanson Housing Authority. The consultant was hired through, this is also a grant through Mass Housing. So the consultant was hired, they established the resource area, they did some sketches. The resource areas do have an impact, but I asked them to provide me with some plans and some drawings so that I could take a look at it with my own with my background that I have. I took a look at it because I don't feel that we should just give up on it. So I did come up with a sketch, and there is, something we can gain out of that. And so that's been presented I submitted that back to the consultant. I submitted it to Mass Housing. We had a meeting. They're going to review the sketch and then come up with an idea of how they want to move forward on that project.
And again, the next steps are Hanson Housing Authority.
Yes, so I did go to the Hanson Housing Authority. I showed them the sketch as well. They liked what they were seeing. So we're still making positive progress on that property.
Okay.
The next page, the Hanson Senior Center. As you're aware, we're getting a 24 by 40 modular building to allow for more space for the senior center. Mary Collins did a great job with getting that grant of $300,000. So all the drawings were submitted to the state, waiting some approval, but they're expecting, hopefully by the end of June, to have actually the building ready to come up and in. So the next few weeks, you'll probably see some activity at the senior center with some site work getting done.
That's
preparation. High Street Park, we're in the process of getting the plans revised. Those plans, the design plans went to a peer reviewer. They made comments. Now we're asking for the designer of these park plans to do the revisions. I'm expecting, based on discussions with that company, to have revised plans sometime in June. They're a bit backed up. I would say that, on a side note, that I'm not sure that the town may, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
It's been a bit disappointing, but we're still moving forward. The next page, the one I'm highlighting here, is our trail maps brochure. Through the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, there was what's known as a redo grant. We received $3,000 for that. I'm working with Dave Mansfield and a local printing company, and we actually have some draft brochures, and it'll be basically a brochure for each of the trail systems that we currently have in town. So that way, and they'll each have a QR code, they have photographs, descriptions, and so each one of the trails will have this particular brochure, but we're also going to try and set it up so that, it's not just a singular thing. Once you know that trail, you'll be able to know all the trails. And we'll be able to put it out there on a local on our webpage, the town, social media.
How about all trails on like one of those things?
Yes,
Okay.
because that's what we're gonna hope to use as, in essence, a seed to start, say, promoting
Our
outside of
eco-tourism.
Hanson.
Yeah, so that
I think
was
the
one of
maps
the,
are made by using all trails.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah,
they're on all trails.
okay.
And one thing to note is, yet again, Tony steps up to the plate, because this was something the Conservation Commission was planning and hoping to do, and Tony's like, oh, I can do this. And he got it paid for. I mean, it's.
We were fortunate to get the money. Dave Mansfield has had a big thing in this. I mean, he's been in essence the trail boss for Hanson.
Yeah.
And he's a big lead on this, so I've been working with him on it. He's sort of started this, and I was able to, we received the money, and I was able to hook up with Dave, and we sort of met with the local printing company, so we're getting that.
This is one of our Economic Development Committee goals for ecotourism, to attract people to use the trails, and while they're doing that, maybe go to a restaurant, stop by a store, whatever.
It's all the
Get some
committees
gas.
together.
Yep.
To get something done, even though it's only $3,000.
I love it. That's great, yeah.
On the last page is just some miscellaneous different projects. These are all, so all these projects that you see, and I guess maybe one that I didn't highlight on the last page is the McQuan Street tip. So we had what's known as a surface utility engineering survey. We had received the $100,000 earmark.
Yep.
We're beginning the work. The work is starting right now for that SUE. They're doing what's known as the B level, which is, you'll see that there's a company, Feldman Geospatial, and they've been going along McQuon Street with a police detail, and they're locating existing utilities. Within the coming weeks, then they will go to the A level of this survey, which will be actual borings in the street, like a 12 by 12 inch square. They use a vacuum truck and get down to the pipe. Abington-Rockland water line. They'll be able to make some determinations as to its vertical location, its horizontal location, and the condition. After that, they patch the road, and then those results will be able to present to MassDOT and try and go to the next step. Myself and Environmental Partners is now known as Apex. We're going to meet with representatives of Abington-Rockland to give them an update of what's going on, what the plans are, how it's going to work out, and try and get some input from them. So basically, all the projects. This is every one of these projects. I'm directly involved somehow, whether I'm the lead or assisting.
It's fantastic.
It's really,
751 Main Street, is that proper place?
what do you say?
751 Main.
Is there a version of this or a version that can be
yes,
put on
yes,
like the website so
yes.
people get their annual update?
I mean, I put this information usually in the annual report. You know.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So, I don't know, Ms. Rain, if you had a question on 751 Main?
I
She
wanted to
just
make
did-
sure which one it
Yeah,
was.
she just was
I
trying
know
to-
the building. I know the building.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people are like, what does a town planner do exactly? Well,
That's the raccoon
in
condo.
addition to assisting the planning board, which is a big task in and of itself, he's doing all kinds of other things, so.
So the one last thing on the last page is I had filed, because we're still technically compliant, the one stop, I filed 8 expressions of interest. 2 of them were kicked back as, nah, they really won't fit, but 6 were. So my attempt is going to be writing 6 of these grants to get in next month. Don't know what's going to happen after that, but at least I'm going to give it a good college try to get in.
Yeah,
See what happens.
we're gonna go kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing to note on the 40R discussion, the hearing is continued for anybody that does want to.
Yes, the first public hearing took place last night. We continued it to June the 9th.
Yeah.
So anyone's welcome to come and discuss it.
I think it is a Monday, because I have a.
Yes, it's a Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, a Monday night. But we did record it, and I can also forward you the slides.
Yes, please.
I can
Please do.
forward you slides. One thing I want to just throw out with because Ms. Rain's on the Highway Building Committee, I
saw that.
Yeah, I prepared an in-house report. It's a draft preliminary report for the committee and with photographs and information, basically what's there, the conditions, and potential solutions. And what we're hoping to do is to come up with a plan that, in essence, or a proposal that is much better than what they have there, improve the conditions of what they have there, stay there, and improve the conditions, but do it on a value-based, we'll call it value engineering-based solutions.
Okay.
So we're trying to think outside the box, reuse, repurpose, paint screen doors kind of thing.
Okay.
But also to have, some additional space so that, because they need it.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
They're in desperate need of space.
They're literally busting at the seams.
And they have vehicles, I mean, here's a big, if you had a $250,000 vehicle, do you want it sitting outside in New England weather, do you want to put it in a garage?
Yeah.
And right now, that's what's happening there. They have $250,000 vehicles that have to sit outside because they do not fit in the building.
I think they're putting some of them at light control, so there is that, but, yeah.
Yeah, but it also becomes the fact that now you have to go down to light control
Yes,
to get it
yes,
out.
yes.
So that's our yearly planning board update to the select board.
Because light control is such a convenient place for a highway department.
Mrs. Rain, you're spicy
I
tonight.
am spicy tonight.
Okay,
Thank you for all the hard work.
any questions for,
He's
Mr.
always
Frank?
thorough.
Just
Yeah.
a huge thank you.
It's always such a
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
You got your fan club here. We appreciate it, Tony.
You and the planning
Yeah.
board.
I just, as I said, keep shuffling my feet.
There you go.
Thanks, very much appreciated.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. All right. Whew, we have been around the world and back again here in 2 hours. All right. Next up is the town administrator's report. Ms. Green.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the board. So, first and foremost, I would like to thank all the employees who helped with town meeting and making it a success. A great deal of work goes into preparing town meeting, and many of the employees went above and beyond that day. So they all deserve a great big thank you. Library Senior Center generator, the installation is complete. The unit is running. They had it running, so the buildings will be powered in the event of a power loss. So that is a project that was maybe almost 2.5, 3 years in the making, so it's good to see it complete. The administrative assistant to the planning board in the town planner, it's posted. We did receive permission from the union to post it simultaneously in-house and outside. So it will be in the Express, the next 2 Thursday editions. We do have it on our website. And Thursday, May 20, right now is the deadline for resumes. As the election approaches, I just want to remind voters that they can still go on the hansonbudget.com website, just if they still have answers to questions. And what was interesting is a resident came in today to have a meeting with me because there was concerns on town meeting and questions. And one thing that came to light was that there is some misunderstanding of how the tax impact is calculated. So we worked with the website to figure out the tax implications. We went to assessors where we got the exact assessment on her house because she thought it was assessed much higher. Then we were able to plug it in and get the exact amount. Now, what they thought was they took their current tax rate, they added on the tax implication, and then thought that compounded into next year. So they took that amount and added another 2.5. So they thought it compounded. They added that amount into
That's because there is a narrative out there about that.
Yeah, but so, and I confirmed it with Eric. So next year, it's only a 2.5 that gets added. It's not the 2.5 plus
Whatever this percentage.
whatever this
We're not
percentage
getting
is.
3 million every.
No.
Right, so,
Additional every.
yeah, so the tax impact is this year,
Be kinda nice.
and then next year it goes back to the 2.5. So once I explained that to her, she felt much better. And she will spread the word on, that's how it works. So it was a very good meeting with that resident today.
I think there's still early voting tomorrow. I think it's the last day of the early
believe
voting.
there was-
Yeah, yeah.
It was busy today. I saw a lot of people.
I know.
Twice today. There were a lot
Yeah,
of people.
I think that's
There was
great.
a lot of traffic at Town Hall for
Yeah.
early voting, so that's very good. We are still in negotiation sessions with all of the unions, so those are moving forward. Hopefully, we can get some of the contracts ratified for presenting in October and supplementing the amounts. The town, basically with our ARPA through Plymouth County, the town was required to submit to a monitoring agency who is CLA Connect, a report that basically outlined all of our projects, all of the status of the projects, the procurement requirements to make sure we're in compliance with procurement, show the warrants for payments, that for any projects that we've made payments on and complete. I did complete that report. I did email it to the agency on Wednesday, but come to find out, their email was rejecting our email. So I spent some time on Friday with the gentleman and used a file upload platform to get the files uploaded to them. I am going to forward you a copy of that report so you can see. That'll outline all the ARPA, that's Plymouth County, not the Treasury, but Plymouth County, so you'll see that. I wanted to bring up too, when we talk about free cash and using it all, I'm sure the board remembers 2 years ago, we discovered in the back of town hall that the flashing around the windows on the second floor was leaking. It had leaked through to the insulation to a point where it was full of black mold. And we had to have a contractor come in, rip all the siding off, rip all of that insulation out, replace it all, secure or weatherize the flashing, and then replace all that siding, in the tune of $56,000. Well, guess what? The very crazy intense winds have now lodged some of our gutters loose. So the gutters up on this side of the back of the town hall are banging, and there's also gutters on the side of the assessor's office that are loose and banging. So Charlie Baker is now getting quotes to fix all of those gutters that have come loose because of the winds.
The gutters didn't come loose because of the work that was already done, right?
No, because it was 2 years ago. So they have just come loose basically in the last few days. So it's been very, very windy this year, but if they were loose before that, we would have known.
Good try.
Okay.
Yeah, we would have known.
It's like,
Well, plus, yeah, they didn't work on this side. They were only working on the side of the second floor on the town hall. So they weren't working on these corners.
okay.
But we're waiting to see what that's going to cost us. So again, it's these unexpected costs that come to light, and we need money for that,
Which
to
is
address these.
Maintenance that isn't
Right,
being
yeah.
performed.
You know, Charlie had to go find what the banging was that everybody was hearing. They thought it was a door out here that was opening and closing, but it's the gutters that have
That
come
sounds
that are banging.
maddening. I would go out of my mind having to listen to banging every time it was windy.
Yes,
And
so
especially the way the wind comes off the water here.
it's
so-
very windy off the water, so, you know, we will be, most likely asking for a reserve fund transfer,
Okay.
for that, for the repairs. Regarding our survey, I just want to remind everybody that unfortunately, the woman who was in charge of that had a medical emergency within her family. I did reach out to her to see if we could get the survey in a format that I could upload it to the website. So I am working on that.
Yep, okay, great,
Still waiting to hear back from her.
great.
And I do have some information to provide the board on the Memorial Day Parade.
Great, a lot of people have been asking.
Yes, yes. So our Veteran Service Officer, new to us, but he has been working very diligently on this. So, he has, troops 34 and 64 of the Girl Scouts, that are going to be doing flags. He has a guest speaker, which is Command Master Chief Abel J. Grigo, but doesn't say what he's a Master Chief of. There will be a new bagpiper this year. His name is Tom Thayer. Don Deeg, retired his pipes apparently.
I used to love listening to
Oh,
Dawn.
really?
Oh, yeah.
That's sad.
I know.
Members of the American Legion Post 226 will participate and provide burgers, dogs, and soda after the parade at the American Legion. The 22nd Mass Voluntary Infantry will be participating in their normal capacity. I don't know what that is.
All right, you know what Ann and I want to know?
Yeah.
Are the widows going to be there?
Widows, we need the widows.
Let's see. The Boy Scouts will be carrying American flags,
Civil War.
reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, lowering and raising 2 flags. LC Seawall and a Project 351 student will be reading the Governor's Proclamation. Ralph Codio will be reading the Gettysburg Address. Clergy, he's working on, and I don't see widows, so we're gonna have to double check to make sure he's working on that.
We might have to,
We need those Civil War widows.
Yes, we do.
But he does have the clergy. Pastor Chris and Pastor John will be participating.
What about the band?
I was gonna
We
ask
should
that
be
too.
getting the band.
I think it's our year for the band. Did we have them last year?
No, we did not.
Yeah, okay.
He's waiting on the middle school
Supposed to go
band
every other year.
confirmation, so he's waiting on the middle school band confirmation.
No, but it's supposed to be the high school, every other
Supposed to
year
be
we're
the high
supposed
school
to
every
get them.
other year.
okay.
2 years in
Yep.
a row, Whitman has had them.
Okay, I will touch base on him on high school. He's working on having a group of children sing the national anthem
Oh.
and having a bugler do taps.
And, do you already say this, do we have transportation for folks to be able to get there? We've had that for a couple of years.
For the seniors.
For seniors, yeah.
He does not mention that here, so I will follow up with him on
Yeah,
that
the
as well.
senior center usually,
Yeah.
I think they usually use their van driver.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So we don't want to forget them. And then, is it, a silly question, but it starts at the same time as always, in the same place as
It's
always?
gonna be the same route, same gathering place, and same times. So
Okay.
those are the same.
And the
Are they gonna be the
times are?
antique cars?
He did not put the times here, but I will get that.
Oh, okay.
Need to know the
No,
times.
he probably doesn't have a connection.
And are the antique cars gonna be in it also, or?
I am working on those, yes.
You are.
You
Yeah,
are, okay.
he put me in charge of those,
Thank
so I'm
you.
working on those, yeah.
And do we, it's probably gonna happen after the election, but are we gonna use like the signs and the cable access to promote it and do, this is the first, like,
I hope so.
Okay.
I mean, the signs are not an issue. I'm sure cable will be there to, record the parade itself.
yeah, I'm just thinking about putting it on like cable access
Yeah, can we put it
channel.
in the Express and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
People don't seem to really know what's going on and they were getting a little nervous that we
And
had,
on all the
Yeah,
Facebook groups
yeah,
and everything else.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think people, assume it's gonna happen, but we won't, people
It's a
wanna keep.
beloved tradition.
Yeah,
We have
people-
had it, except during COVID. There was like
Yeah.
1 year, I think, that the very first, like 2020, I think we canceled it. Then we did like hybrid versions after that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so I will touch base with him on, the promoting, high school band, then the widows. We'll see where
Widows
he
are
is with
are
that.
the top priority. I cannot emphasize that
Not
enough.
more than the antique cars.
Huh? Absolutely.
We'll have the cars. I mean, hopefully the weather's gonna cooperate.
Yeah,
Those are some plucky ladies wearing those woolen
Oh, no.
outfits like in,
I
yeah.
think they're
I mean,
fantastic. They are
yeah,
fantastic.
That's not for the faint of
That's
heart.
so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But there is work being done on the parade.
Thank you.
So we are working on that.
Great.
And that concludes my town administrator report for tonight.
All right, great.
well, I won't forget it, so.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We're going to go to executive session. We will not be returning to open session. And we're going into executive session pursuant to open meeting law, chapter 38, section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Litigation, auto dealer and paving, 1057 Main Street, collective bargaining discussions, union negotiations, admin, fire, highway, police, executive session pursuant to open meeting law, chapter 38, section 21A7, to review and approve executive session minutes not to be released April 29th, 2025. I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Okay, great. Thank you very much.